Yo, what's good, people? Old Styles in the building, back with another live stream, joined by Nods. Nods, what is good?
What's up, people? How's it going? Long time since we did a
Yeah,
live,
long time.
very
Yeah,
long time. So happy to be back on the Omari Styles, the Omari
yeah,
Wave show.
long time. I know, but
Yes, yes.
we're back. We're here. The Reckoning came out, so I'm like, all right, there's a lot of people talking, so definitely to give our 2 cents. And yeah, what have you been up to there, Nads? What's been going on with you?
Nothing really. Just being a mom. You know what I mean. You know how it goes.
Okay, okay. So
And yeah. Just starting out my little YouTube channel here. Life of a
yeah, tell
sneaker
the people
mama.
about your YouTube channel.
Yeah, as you know, I kind of have a desire of collecting sneakers. It's been something I've been doing since I was a child, and ever since I got my first pair of sneakers back in 1991. Well, that I remember, So
All
I
right.
kind of just as my adult years kind of start collecting sneakers. So I'm starting to kind of showcase some of the ones I collections I do have and kind of matching them up with outfits. I have shorts as well, but I do talk about electronics, hip hop, and other things as well on my channel, but it's mainly centered around sneakers, of course. So yeah, so that's what my channel is Life of a Sneaker Mama on YouTube. There we go.
All right. All right. Perfect. Perfect. Perfect.
Yes.
All right. That's what's up. So, Diddy, let's get right into it. The Reckoning.
Yes.
Um, last time we had last time we talked about Diddy was what? I think it was what, a couple, maybe about a year and change back.
Yeah, it's been a
And I
while.
think the first time we talked about Diddy was maybe 2 years ago. I think it was about like maybe 2023 or
Oh,
2022 on this
okay.
channel. So I think at that time we did like the rise and fall of Diddy. This is before all of the trial, before all of the lawsuits. I think it was maybe when the first lawsuit came out, we did just talking about Diddy. And here we are, 2 years later,
Yeah.
back again talking about Diddy. So Diddy got convicted of what, two
Counts of
counts?
what's it,
Yeah.
like trafficking, was it prostitution? Like not prostitution, but it's kind of those lines, like trafficking, sex trafficking, or something like that, or in those lines. But I know he was charged. I know he was charged with RICO, but those charges were dropped. But I think
Hmm.
it was more in the lines of the human traffic or the sex trafficking or whatever that he was
Yeah.
charged with. And he was given 50 months time served.
Hmm.
So he's been in jail for over a year now. So yeah, this one has a few more years to go. And yeah, so in between the trial, the salaciousness of the trial, the craziness, we get this documentary called Sean Combs' A Reckoning that dropped. Now, 50 Cent was kind of like teasing this documentary for a while throughout the year. And then finally it dropped last week. And it's been a buzz. Like everybody's been talking about it. And it's kind of scary because it's we'll get into it like step by step, like each episode. Now, based upon my remembrance, because I watched it 2 times, but I still, um, it kind of blows my mind where all the information is kind of like geared towards really like tearing him down instead of it focused on really the facts. But um, you'll see like a lot of people in the media just took off like in this fireball, like people just like believing everything in the actual documentary, and I'm like, this is wild. And I'm not a person that really likes Diddy like that, but I'm like, this is crazy. I've never seen anything like this. Oh he did that. Oh yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure. And I'm like, whoa, anybody do the research here? Like, you know what I mean? But anyways, but we'll get into it. I don't want to take over. I don't want to jump the gun too much. So um, we'll go by step. But yeah. So what are your thoughts on I guess watching episode one? What is your thoughts? if you remember the
No,
episode.
what I was trying to say was
Yeah.
back when we did the live stream in 2020, I just looked it up here. It's actually 2023 November.
Okay. Yes.
Um, at that time, if I'm not mistaken, what was going on was people were just talking strictly about his his sus moments. There's a video that came out
Right.
that was called Diddy Sus Moments. So we
Yes.
literally
Yes.
just came on here and just started talking about it. I think that's when the first
Yeah.
Cassie lawsuit dropped, so
That's right. Yes.
that's all it was. It was just Diddy sus moments. That's all we talked about. And then we're also talking about how dude's a legend, no way out. What else? Like all of his just signature moments over the last 30 years, seemingly, and
Right. Right.
how they're just using him as another scapegoat to just kind of
Right.
like bring down these, with like R. Kelly being the last and like Bill Cosby being before that. It just seemed like a continuation of like a pattern that we've
Right.
noticed, for one. And then for two, the video again was about the sus moments of Diddy. So about him, with like just being sus, and Gene Deal talking about how sus he was, and moments with him and Usher, moments with him like dressing up like a woman, him and Steve Style getting all close on stage, Merc
Oh
Ross and
yeah.
him getting all
I
close on
remember
stage.
that. And then some other
Right.
DJ, like he was kind of. They had pictures of him being close in some
Yeah,
meeting,
like that's all
and
it
then
was.
and then they brought up like the white parties, the Diddy parties from back in like 25 years ago, where all of them
Hmm.
were lined up, like Aaliyah and like what's the guy's name? What's the guy's name from Rockefeller? What's his name? Dame Dash, Kadada Jones, like all these people. I think Kadada was in the picture. All these people were lined up in that big bed. Diddy had the big bed. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah.
He had the big bed where everybody was sleeping on. And I don't know if you saw that picture, and people were just like, making like kind of,
Yeah.
oh, they're all kind of canoodling kind of
That's all
thing.
this
But
started as,
yeah,
basically. That's all this started
they
as.
stuff,
And they turned that 2 years ago. It seemed like this media machine into a full 2 years worth of just content. So
Yep.
excuse me for not, over the last 2 years, just kind of like reporting on every single little thing that comes out about P. Diddy. I would literally have
Yeah,
no life if that was the
that's
case,
right. Yeah,
because every single day somebody's coming out saying something about Diddy, right? Something about Diddy's past, something about Diddy being this, something about Diddy being that. The man is he's just a walking headline. He's just a
that's
walking
right.
media
Yeah,
machine. That's all he is really. He's penetrated the lines of he's penetrated every single market as well. Levels of media, I should say, like mainstream media, YouTube media, everything, like the gangster underworld media. Like he's everywhere. He's
yeah,
literally, I don't know. He just, to me, I'll say it straight up, dude's a puppet. He's just a puppet to the media lords. Ultimately,
yeah,
that's what it feels like to me. Because this dude is everywhere. Now Netflix transitioning now to the reckoning. Now Netflix is getting their bag off of Diddy. Netflix
yeah.
is like,
Everybody's
all right,
making money
let's
off
go.
of Diddy
Let's
right
get a
now.
little bag off of this guy,
Yeah,
Let's go in and talk crazy about him. Let's put 50 Cent in it. Let's get everybody all riled up. Let's get our subscribers up, and let's get our subscriptions, I should say, up, and let's go. Let's get a new advertising bag. You know what I mean? So that's the way it
yeah,
feels to me. It feels just like another, pimping the hose or pimping the sheep or whatever you want to call them. And it's creating a lot of, like, I wouldn't say chaos, it's creating a lot of misinformation. I should say that.
that's right. That's
Because
that's my main concern
mm,
is
yeah.
misinformation and people that don't like that didn't do the research or didn't follow Diddy's story or follow other stories that they were talking about within the documentary. I just feel that they're just believing anything. They're just believing it. Oh my God, he's well. We'll get into the whole Tupac situation, but just just a brief synopsis. They're trying to like, which is this has been going on for a couple years now, which I myself had had believed it at first until I took a step back and I'm like, wait, but it's like they're trying to pin Diddy to to the sorry, my apologies to this Tupac murder, which I feel is which I feel that is very now I believe that's very reckless. At first, I was like, oh man, did he deserves what he gets, and this I oh not deserve what he gets, but I mean like oh he's gonna go down the kind of thing in that mindset. I didn't want to be in that mindset because we don't have the full facts. We're just going by hearsay and rumors and gossip, and there's no concrete evidence because all these years, if you notice, he's been saying no, I had nothing to do with that. Every time he asked it, he gets upset. And then I remember last year when like the or last year or the year before when the news broke with him with the Cassie situation when she filed her civil lawsuit. You see people coming out. One lady said, "Oh, did he attack me? Because we I confronted him about the Tupac thing, and he kidnapped me and or he assaulted me, and I tried to fight back." I don't know if you remember that story. I'm like, all this craziness started popping out about Diddy. I was like, oh my gosh. And it's just like I don't know. It's just as I said, the misinformation and people just all these different. Everybody's coming out the woodwork. All these different stories ever since Cassie dropped dropped the civil lawsuit, and all these lawsuits came after the fact too. So yeah, but as I said, the misinformation, um, and them just capitalizing off of Diddy. They're definitely everybody's making the money. You got these bloggers, these YouTube bloggers that are total salacious gossipers. They're like Wendy Williams Part 2, 2.0. They end up, you see them in the documentary, like the woman Tisha tells,
Yeah.
you see her in the documentary. And I'm like, what is she? Was she around when Bad Boy was like, you know what I mean? But I know I used to watch her stuff, when the whole Drake and Kendrick beef came out, and she kind of appeared and was talking about it too. And she was very salacious with her stuff, even when the Diddy stuff popped up. And she I don't know, she ended up being a part of the whole trial, and then now she's in the documentary. It's very like I don't know, it seems very suspect and set up to me. But anyways, so Mr. Styles,
Yeah, so like I was saying,
you
just
take
to
over from
carry
here.
piggyback off of it,
Yes.
yeah, the Tupac stuff, it's like
Yeah.
Tupac died in what, 96 and 97?
96, September 13th, he passed,
96.
right?
We're in 2026 almost.
Yes. 30 years.
30
30 years.
years.
So imagine me who
The
studied
Howard
this stuff
thing,
for almost 30 years. It's like when you're hearing this stuff now, you're like, what the heck? You know what I mean? But anyways, yeah.
The stuff that happened at what was it? Was it Howard University or what? No, what was the campus that it
No,
happened?
it was city, the
Where that
city
tragedy
college.
happened?
City college. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was I think it was in New York. City college.
New York,
Yeah.
yeah, where that
Yeah.
incident happened, that was like what, 91, 92,
91. Yeah.
91. We're in
And they put that in the documentary, and I'm like,
2025, and this man has been in the spotlight for so long. Hard to really sit here and believe that he's either side, like he's super innocent or he's super, super guilty, pretty much.
right.
Very hard to sit here and believe either side, right?
Mhm.
Because I'm sure he's made a lot of millionaires along the way. Those
Yeah.
people will look at him like in a very positive light. They probably, he's probably changed a lot of people's lives on both sides. So that kind of like brings me back to what I was saying earlier. It's just this guy is just being pimped by just both sides, it feels like. It's just
I don't know. Like,
it's another
well,
reason
we
for
always
people to
heard
get
of
all riled up and confused. Just more adding to the, misinformation generation that we live in. Because it feels like there's just nobody believes the truth. Like the lies are way more entertaining. So nobody
that's
wants to sit
true.
here and
Yeah,
believe the truth. Nobody wants to sit here and
exactly.
do the actual research, bring up the actual facts. It's all just based on feeling. It's based on other people's opinion. It's not even, nobody cares about the truth anymore. So
That's right. Yeah.
it's just the world we live in. Again, we talked about a little earlier, Diddy's sus moments. And if you notice, like all those sus moments throughout the last 2 years, none of that that's gotten buried in the
Yeah.
algorithm. No one's even talked about any of that. Yeah, there are some new sus moments, But all those old sus moments, everybody kind of forgot about them. And I feel like that's how this all kind of started in the last 5 years, let's just say. That's how this all got like
Mhm.
reactivated. Whereas a lot of his sus moments, the Fabulous interview, sorry, the Drink Chats interview
I
with
like to
him and
see you
Fabulous,
scramble. How can you party with me?
that's like how long ago was that? That's almost like that's how long ago now. Yeah, that's a
I don't know,
while ago.
over
But that
10 years.
ignited,
Yeah,
and then 50 Cent with the whole he wanted to buy me, he wants to take me
take you
shopping.
shopping. But then
Again,
Diddy
that's
kind of
like
brushed it off. Was like, I thought he did. I thought he needed clothes. I just asked him.
I thought he
He
needed
just
clothes.
when
He
he
came
went
on
on
the
the
Breakfast
Breakfast
Club and
Club.
said that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
he
it's
said
like
that. I thought he
that's
just needed some clothes. That's all he said. That's what he said. And then the whole they didn't add in. I noticed that they never added him physically assaulting Drake. You know what I mean? A few times, which that was huge in the media for years. Like people have been talking about that for years and years, and he's denied it. But you know, um,
again, it just
that
goes to
yeah,
show that
yeah,
every single this guy is just he has too much going on at the end of the day.
right, right,
It's just he must be being used by somebody. He must be being used. He's a puppet. It's giving puppet vibes because this guy's just like, how does he sleep at night when he has all these people saying all these things about him for the last like 30 something years? He must be
yeah. I
protected
know.
in some type of way
From
that,
back then, from the
he's either
'90s, from
super innocent or he's super
yeah,
guilty. Like he must be
exactly
somewhere in between
in
because
between.
like
Yeah,
how can you really get down to the truth now, like almost 30 something years later, for all the things that he's been doing since the early 90s?
exactly.
It just
But
gives, that's what I'm saying,
what
it gives kind of the
changed though?
Cosby vibes. It gives kind
Right,
of R. Kelly and Cosby vibes, which
right,
again, the
right.
whole thing just doesn't make much sense. It's not concrete enough
But
for me
what
to
changed because when I was growing up watching Diddy, I mean, well, Puff Daddy back then, in like what that between 90, I would say 94 to 97, 98, 99, 2000s, early 2000s, he was like the innocent guy. Like he was the businessman. He was more in the loss of Biggie back in 97, 98, 99. He wasn't in the limelight in a bad way until 99, until he got into the shootout, the shooting situation with him and Shine, and Jennifer Lopez in the club. That's when you start seeing the bad media come out. And then, but from 91, when the city college situation happened, which I didn't know about that until years upon years later, until 2 3 years of that. That they hid that for years. They hid that. Like that came out of the media for years. All of a sudden, it's like Gene Deal when he started talking about his stuff, he started going. Gene Deal's um Diddy's old bodyguard that started to really he came out with a channel. He actually started talking from the Biggie and Tupac David Bloomberg documentary back in '02, and he was on interviews and stuff back from the late '90s to that around that time too. But he didn't really people didn't really know who he was until about 9 10 years ago when he started to really open up and talk about his experiences with Diddy because he fell out with him, and that's when you start to hear about the city college situation, about the about his wife, his Kim Porter situation, the possible setup between two of Tupac situation, the Biggie going to LA and them getting the warnings of him not going, like that's you start to hear those stories but you never heard back in the 90s or after Biggie died, back in 97, between 97 and 2000 and like 10, 2000. You never heard those stories. And I've been watching all these Tupac Biggie documentaries, never heard not one of those stories um until Gene Deal started talking about those stuff. You know what I mean? So it's like, as I said, like from the 90s, from after 91, yo, Diddy, Puff Daddy was in the limelight. He was like on top. Like, you know what I mean? Obviously, he was helping other artists, and they didn't talk about him directing videos for Outkast in Atlanta. This is what they're talking about. It's only gearing towards a negative, 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 but not focusing on the positive stuff that he's did throughout the years too. But I don't want to digress too much, so I just want to kind of just shine a light on the fact that Diddy wasn't always looked at as a monster from the '90s coming up to this point.
yeah,
He
that's what
wasn't
I'm
always
saying.
looked
Which
up
is make
like
me.
that.
That's what I'm saying. That's
Yeah,
why it gives pop. It really and truly for me just gives puppet vibes. Like the guy is
right.
just it doesn't make sense. It's all not really adding up because you have like
Yeah.
again, you have the sus stuff, and again, that never even like that was the thing. That was the big thing. That's what made him go viral for all like the
Mhm.
last I'd say almost like 10 years. His like
Yeah.
sus moments. And then him and French Montana, there's rumors with them, Usher, Kevin Hart, all these like Burna
And the
Boy,
big one,
like
Justin Bieber,
Clive
which they left out
Davis,
too. Justin Bieber, that was a big
Justin
one too.
Bieber.
Yeah.
Like there's all these like him and Mace. Remember Cameron went on the
Yeah.
Breakfast Club and said some stuff. Like all
Yeah.
none of that even
Who
saw
came
the
out and
light
said
of
that? Which artist
day,
was it?
huh?
Which artist came out and said, Cameron said that when
Yeah,
he was at
Cameron on the Breakfast Club. Yeah, that he
yeah,
saw
it was
like
Cameron.
dildos in his house
The
and stuff.
yeah,
I'm
yeah, I
saying
remember.
like all of that, none of that saw the light of day in the trial. None of that saw the light of day in the documentary.
No,
Like they're literally, it feels like they're just like you're kind of alluding to as well. They're picking and choosing what
right,
they want to really reveal to us. It
exactly,
doesn't really seem like you're just getting the whole and full truth about the guy. Like
exactly.
nothing sus came out of from the trial. Like you heard about baby oil, tapes, like that one incident with the man milk being poured on his nipples and stuff like that. And
Oh
you're telling me
Lord,
that's all that this has been doing? That's all out of all of this. Nobody came out and said, "Yeah, you know what? I saw him in the documentary or in the court documents. Oh
hmm
yeah, I saw him in bed with uh
with a
Clive
dude.
Davis, for example." And
Yeah,
that's what Chopper City came out in the interview and said that.
yeah.
Gene Deal came out and said him and what's his name? Ron Burrows, whatever his name is, his partner,
Kirk Barrows. Yeah,
Kirk
we're in
Burrows.
a
Yeah,
relationship.
not Ron Burrows, his
Yeah,
pop champ. Yeah, Kirk Burrows, that him where they were lovers. No, like the all the stuff that made it to the highest level of media, like the super mainstream media, had nothing sus to say about him. Which again just leads me to believe, like, bro, this is just the WWE. It just doesn't feel real. It just feels all felonious. But yeah, I mean, getting right into it, getting into the actual documentary itself. I thought it was pretty well done. I think it was put
it's put
together. It
together
had its
well. Yeah,
highs, it had its lows, it had its main characters, it had its villains, its heroes. It was like a full out. It was like it was good. It was good. Um, episode one was what's it called? I have it right here.
episode one is called episode one
Pain
Pain
versus
versus Love.
love.
Yeah,
Pain versus love, and that's actually funny because like the Little Rod incident, for example, like this guy literally just spawned out of nowhere for me. I was like,
yeah, he
Little
did.
Rod,
Yeah,
how does he have such a big role in this? And some of the said people that you mentioned, like the Gene Deals and other people who played much bigger and had more insight, have no say so in this. Like they're just picking and choosing who they want to actually include in
yeah,
this. They're not really trying to give you the full picture. Little Rod and him,
exactly.
what had
They didn't give the
what
whole
kind of interactions
story.
did they work together for like maybe a couple years, couple months? They weren't really, you know what I mean? They weren't really no big time history together. But this guy's such a huge integral role, and it's because he didn't get paid. I don't know. Just because he didn't get paid, he gets such a big role in all this, and he has a lawsuit against him.
It was a very
Um,
salacious lawsuit too, and
Very
accusing
salacious lawsuit.
accusing
Yeah.
artists. Um, he threw Cuba Gooding Jr. in there, which he had to drop. There was another artist that he threw in Lucian Grange. They had to remove University and Lucian Grange off of there quick. Because he said that Lucian Grange facilitated all these parties. Where are you getting this information from? That's what I want to know. But that's why they removed the Lucian Grange's name off of that original civil lawsuit. You know what I mean? Like, because he didn't
Yeah.
get his money. But then I'm thinking to myself, okay, so where's the contracts? Because you have to sign a contract when you're working, when you're in the music business and when you're working with producers and artists, you have to sign contracts. Where's your lawyer? Where's your entertainment lawyer? You know what I mean? Like things like that. Like I question, and as I said, people are watching these documentaries and believing every word. And I'm like, no, like, you have to dig deeper. You can't just take things at face value. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that okay, things didn't happen to this guy, but at the same time, it's like yo, like if you feel that the man didn't give you the okay, and then go after the fact that you didn't get your money, don't, and then you're putting in all this salacious stuff, and like on top of what the actual thing is you not getting paid. Then you should have sued Diddy for not getting paid. That's it. Not yet. Then you're adding all this stuff. Then this criminal activity, and they if you were you might have been SA'd and you don't know. I'm like, you know what I mean? Then that's a criminal case. Then why none of them come up? Because his situation is not statute of limitation. The rest of the stuff, I understand stuff that happened in '91 and stuff like that, where they can't in the state of New York. Forgive me, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know the laws when it comes to that in the state of New York. But there's certain times where you can file criminal charges, right? Why didn't he file a criminal charge against Diddy if that situation happened? You know what I mean? Like all these things I'm just thinking about. But anyways, Pain versus Love kind of digs into his childhood and how he became. It's kind of the beginning, like how he
Yeah.
became Puff Daddy, right? And his
Yeah, that was
he
pretty
had one
good.
of his
How did you like that? Like, how did you like the way they told the story of his,
I
when he
didn't
coming
mind
up with
it,
his mom and his
but it just
yeah
looked like
upbringing, his
all
dad
her.
dying, and mhm.
It just looked like all. Sorry to cut you off. I apologize. It just looked like all they focus on is her being a party woman and possible drug dealer. Like what? Oh, like okay, we knew that Puff Daddy's father used to roll with used to be I guess like a drug pusher or whatever, and was on the streets. But he used to roll with what's the guy's name? The American Gangster. What's the guy's name?
Frank Lucas.
Frank Lucas used to roll with Frank Lucas and all those guys. Okay, we understand that. Diddy didn't hide that. He talked about it. We know that his dad used to be a gangster, right? And then he was unalived, unfortunately, because of the situation that left his mom and him. Um, and but you could tell his mom really worked hard to um, keep him in a good home, and he went to private school. That means he had money. Like, you know what I mean? That means a mom,
Yeah.
like,
Also,
at, yeah, that
also, I'll
could have been
just say
money. You
this.
don't know. That could have been the father probably that could have been inheritance money. You know what I mean? Because the father was murdered, right? So you don't know where he and then also the mom, as she said, because they did bring up the interview inside the studio where the mom was talking about how many she had all these different jobs to take to support her son. She had all these different jobs, and then she used to work at the after hours bar too. That's what she said. So and
Yeah.
so, but
So I'll
okay, but
also say this, that she did drop a statement recently as well too.
she
So
did. But we'll get into that. We'll get
she had
into
some
that.
things to say.
She
I'll
did,
just
yeah,
say, like, yeah, she had some things to say about the documentary, of course, denying and
yeah.
condemning it, right? So if it's like, there we go, you know what I mean? More back and forth between parties A and parties B, Diddy versus this, Diddy versus that, the family, like it just never ends. Like it seems like even when, let's just say, God forbid, like something does happen to him, he does pass away, it's still not gonna end. They're still gonna be talking about this guy for like years to come, even after he leaves here. He's still gonna get talked
Yeah,
about. There's still be unsolved mysteries, unsolved this, not, people just be rewriting the history, rewriting the script. And it's just like, man, it's just crazy how life works.
exactly. And
But
but
yeah,
you
go
got
on.
but what
Like you're
really
saying,
hurts is
yeah.
you got people that used to work with him that indulge in the mess with him, coming out and speaking against him. You enabled this. Okay, if you had problems and issues, you enabled it. You worked with him. You know what I mean? You were in the mess too. But we're gonna get into that, Mark Curry. We're gonna get into anyway. But yeah, what were you
Yeah,
gonna say?
Mark
Sorry, my
Curry,
apologies.
like, that's the fun. That's kind of like the funny part of it to me. It's like all these guys
Yeah,
who, were given shots by Diddy, never, like you said,
yeah,
either called him out, or just walked away. Like just got out the room and just said, you know what, I'm not dealing with this no more. They were just there.
yeah,
They were there throughout the entire thing, and then they're not being held accountable at all. Like some of them
Yeah,
are getting sued, but majority of them aren't. People are just going around their merry ways, and we're participating in, freak offs, or they're having their own freak offs.
yeah,
And nothing's happening to them. It's like they're just picking and choosing who they want these things to kind of happen to, and it's
mhm,
kind of messed up if you ask me.
yeah.
Because again, like Diddy, like he pretty much got 50 months for just being a freak.
But that's
That's what I got
exactly
from it. But
it.
again,
It wasn't. It
we'll get
wasn't
into that.
anything criminal. It wasn't for
Yeah, we'll
domestic
get into that. We'll get
abuse.
into that. But
But
in the
we'll get
pain
into
and
that. But
love, his
yeah,
upbringing was like you said. He went to a private school. He comes from pretty pretty good background. It's really really hard to understand how dude was selected to be this person. Yeah, from where I'm
exactly.
sitting, doesn't make any sense how
Yeah,
this guy just kind of. And they try to say, oh well, he came up through this record label, and he was an intern here, and he was just a hard worker. He was a dancer, never drank, da da da. But still, like, how did he go from that to this? It's really, that's why I say the documentary in itself is really interesting. It's really good, put together very well. Just kind of try not to get too caught up in it, because this guy's life, it feels scripted at this point. It's
mhm,
like, how would you have predicted this 30 years ago that this dude was going to be in this position now? You know,
exactly.
Crazy. Nothing
Well,
took
this
him
it
out.
was.
Nothing. Not no, nothing. Nothing took him out. Nobody got mad one day and said, "Yo, let's go find this guy and like, go get him." No, nobody. Nobody slipped nothing in his drink. No, nothing. He never had no issues, no major health issues with all this partying he's been doing all these years. Like, make it make sense. Like, is this dude even real? Like, how did he
That's the
even
thing.
know?
Like,
Okay, but let me say this. How did he even know that to go to New York? Like, were his lawyers instructing him to go to New York, to be in New York? And how did he even know to walk around with the camera crew? And how did the footage from that camera team get into Netflix's hands? Like, that the whole basis of this documentary doesn't even make sense. Like, the basis is them following him around, like the cameras following him around, the cameras, quote unquote, leading up to his arrest in New York. Again, number one, how did he even know to walk around with the camera crew? Number two, how did they even get because aren't they supposed to be his ops? Isn't this 50 Cent? How does 50
well,
Cent
that's
get
the
a
thing.
hold?
But that's the thing.
It
I
doesn't make
heard
no
that.
sense.
Hold on. I heard that he was working on a documentary with his video. I guess his video photographer, whatever. And I guess like he was supposed to pitch it to Netflix. There's some rumor that, and I guess like either some there was a fallout, or either he didn't pay the videographer, and then the videographer ended up selling it or ended up selling it to the lady, the Alex Stapleton, who was the director, and ended up selling it and pitching it to Netflix, which I find it's very foul, because I understand maybe he was doing the documentary because of, maybe he knew that he knew that he knew, maybe he had some inclination or some information that he knows that he's going to get arrested, right?
That's what I'm trying to
So
say. Like, how does he
yeah.
even know? Who is telling him this?
Well,
How
maybe
does
his
he know?
lawyers. Maybe
And
his
who is
lawyers gave him
so his lawyers are
some
so okay. I
inclination.
get I get that part.
Yeah,
I get that part. I get
yeah.
that part. His lawyers.
Probably told him, well, they're going to arrest you soon, so come to New York and be prepared. That's all. That could be where it's just speculation, but based upon what you're watching, it seems like that's what was happening. Because look how he came
Right.
back from the hotel, and then they arrested him. It's like
So
he
what?
knew. You
So
know what I
when they
mean?
raided his
Yeah.
home in Miami, and when they raided his other
Well,
home in
keep in
LA,
mind his homes were
why was he
raided.
not?
You can't go
Huh?
back there. They were raided,
No, but I'm
right?
saying though, says who? But again, why was he not at home
Why
when
would
the
you want to
raids
go back there
happened?
when his houses were raided?
Why was he
The
not at
Miami
home
and the
when?
LA
Why
houses
was
were
he not
raided.
at home when the houses were raided? For
He
one,
was, remember, he
for
was on a
two,
flight. He was on the flight with the white guy, the white drug dealer, and a few other people. Remember, he
of
was on the
course he
flight.
was, of course he
Yeah, because
was,
obviously he got tipped
of
off that they're gonna
course.
raid his home.
But
Yeah,
who's tipping him off?
I don't
Who's
know.
tipping
Well,
him
we
off?
don't know that. We
This
will
is what I'm
never
trying
know
to
that. We
say.
don't know
But
unless
what
that
you
person.
just said was
Yeah,
his lawyers advised him to go to New York. That's why he knew to be in New York. But
yeah,
who's tipping
because
him
they were
off that
gonna
the
arrest
FBI
him.
was about to
Yeah,
raid his house? His same lawyers?
we don't know.
How would
Okay,
they
well,
know
we're kind
that?
of digressing a bit
This is
because we
what
have
I'm
to
trying
stick
to
to the
say.
documentary, right?
Long
We don't
story
know.
short is
Yeah, we don't
those are
know
my
that.
two original questions. How did he
Yeah.
know to be in New York? You gave me an answer. How do you know his house is going to be raided? How do you know these things?
Well, we didn't. We don't know.
Dude,
Well, we're not gonna speculate. We really don't know.
How does Netflix get a hold? Again, it's always these kind of like made up, just kind of like half truth
Have
type stories. It
yeah,
doesn't really feel
doesn't make
too
sense. Like how
concrete, you know?
But
It's
that's what Gail asked 50 Cent. If you look at the interview, yeah. Well, how did they? Well, who was this person that gave the footage? Oh, our journalists never reveal their sources or whatever. And smiling like
yeah,
50 Cent is like
exactly.
damn skeletons in his closet. I'm telling you, man. There's a lot
Yeah,
of
that's what I'm
hypocrisy with
saying.
this whole documentary too, eh? So
A
I
lot.
this is why I'm not a listen, Diddy has to take accountability for the things that he actually did, but pinning everything on the man and people that don't have a knowledge of what's really going on and what did research and knew back then, they're gonna automatically believe everything that they put together. And this is when it becomes dangerous. This documentary, everybody thinks is good, and they're because you see it in the media. Oh, Diddy did this. Oh, Diddy killed two. Look what they did to Tupac and Biggie, and oh my God, he killed Tupac, and oh my God, look what he did to Cassie. Which yeah, he did a bad stuff to Cassie. Yes, he did. But they were in a toxic relationship. But we'll get into that as well. Oh, and you know what Kirk Burrows said, and Biggie had to pay for his funeral. He ripped off a lot of people. That I had to tell my mom that today. I'm like, yo, that's the music business. The artists get ripped off all the time. That's the music business, right? It's not just Diddy. I just feel like Diddy's like the scapegoat in this whole situation, as you say, like you know what I mean. Something's not. It's like he's like a puppet. You know what I mean? But I
Yeah,
just
like you
feel like he's
said,
the
like
scapegoat. They're
all
not
these
telling the
things,
full
these claims just
story.
coming out
They're
about him.
not telling
Yeah.
the truth in this documentary. People are going to sit there and believe every word, and this is where it becomes a problem. You know what I mean? And let's okay. Let's get back to Pain and Love. Um, when the girl Joe Dickinson. Now I remember we had the conversation outside of the stream, and I just felt really bad for her because she's telling her story how she met Diddy, and it seemed okay at first, but then she seems so shaken up. And remember, she sued Diddy. And remember when I was telling you, as I said, this documentary only picks and chooses what they want to put in there because the same girl sued Aaron Hall, and they didn't put Aaron Hall in that. Why? You see what I'm saying? As you said, they're telling half truths. You know what I mean? They're not telling. Well, there's no such thing as half truths. Either it's the truth or the lie. So they're telling lie. They're not putting the full story out there that she sued Aaron Hall as well, and then somebody told her. It's like somebody told her that there was a videotape of Diddy having intercourse with her, and they're showing it on. I guess they videotaped it or whatever, and showing it in parties, and that's when they came into the whole Alpo thing. The Alpo used to do that with his women. But they never went into if that was consensual or not. If the women were okay with it or not, they never went in deep down. You see what I'm talking about? They made it look like out with Alpo who and all these people they talk about. A lot of them are not no longer on Earth. They're all of them pass away. So they can't even defend themselves to say, wait a minute, hold on here. Yeah, I used to do those things, but yo, the gal them knew about it. You know what I mean? There's some girls that probably were okay with it and was consensual. They don't go into that, but they use Alpo as an example to show that's what Diddy did too, with the
Yeah,
women
they
that
said
he.
they
But
talked about that a lot in episode one. Yep.
pardon?
Yeah, they spoke about that in episode one. Yes, I recall.
Episode one, yeah, that's what we're talking about. So with her situation, remember I was telling you, I'm like, oh my God, what if somebody lied to her and she's holding on to that pain and that hurt for all these years because it's not like she was with Diddy and she drank something and she passed out. They didn't give no context of what happened to her. You see what I'm saying? And people are going to sit there and believe all that stuff. We don't even know. They didn't give full context. Context is so important when it comes to telling these stories. No context. They didn't say, well, I went. She only told the story that he asked her to go to New York to do a music video, and she needed a ride back. I think I'm not sure where she was from. I don't know if she's from New Jersey or Connecticut, whatever, or Queen. I'm not sure what city she was from. I can't remember. We would have to go back and watch it, but it didn't go into detail. It didn't say, you know what, Diddy, me and Diddy were drinking, we're having a good time, and then I just drank a drink, me and him, and then we fell asleep, or we did what we did. You know what I mean? And then twos now, this woman, somebody called me on the phone and told me that they saw a videotape of me and Diddy having relations and put it on, and you know what I mean? No, it didn't go into context. And then it made people think that she was drugged and raped, and then she's crying, which will give an emotional response. People will be like, "Oh my God, I feel so sorry for her," without context. Was it consensual? Were you in? And then he videotaped and you didn't know. Then that's a problem. You know what I mean? It doesn't go into detail, so people are gonna sit there and believe that, and she could be lying. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm saying. People can fake that and fake cry, and you don't know. But at the same time, that person that told her over the phone or whatever in the person could have been lying to her, and she's feeling that hurt and guilt for all these years, and that shame and condemnation for all these years over a lie. If that was the case, I feel really bad for her, and that's wrong for the whoever did that to her. You know what I mean? Because she did confront Diddy, and he said that he never did it, right? Which obviously Diddy's going to deny. Whatever. We don't know. We have to give people the benefit of the doubt sometimes. We don't know. We don't know Diddy. We don't know what happened. He could be telling the truth. He could be saying, "Yo, I never did this to you." He could be telling the truth, but she doesn't believe it, right? You never know. So that's what I'm saying. It's very dangerous how they don't give context. They only like pick and choose what they put in the document to make Diddy to kind of put the blame on him. But what is your insight? Like, do you want to maybe go into this whole city college situation, or is there anything else you want to talk about with episode one
Yeah,
and
no, no,
maybe
go
episode
on. I'm
two? I mean,
listening. Yeah. So
yeah,
basically, in terms of yeah, the city college situation, I thought that was kind of like, yo, I didn't even know the
yeah,
full extent of that, and they're just bringing this up. I get it, but like they're bringing it up, like you're saying, and trying to paint the picture that this guy's been manipulative and
yeah,
didn't really doesn't really care about anybody but himself. Like since then, like nine people lost their lives, and the way the documentary painted it was that it was his fault, even though people got like
exactly. And that's
trampled.
not fully
And
the
then there
truth.
were
You
there
know what
were
I mean?
interviews that I watched after that to sit, because again I was like I was small when that first happened. I wasn't even
No, yeah, I
aware
was a kid. I
of
was
the
like
extent of it.
young. Yeah,
But yeah, the interviews came out after and said, oh, it was this other person, another one of the organizers who didn't want to open up the doors, which is the
yeah,
reason why the people actually got trampled.
yeah,
And then there was issues with security and things of that nature. Like there was a lot of people that could have had the finger pointed at them for that tragedy,
yeah.
but the documentary just focused on Diddy. So, like you're saying,
Exactly.
that's just dangerous. They're just really here. And again, to go back to the whole, what's her name? I can't remember her name. Like you just said her name, the lady who was
The
the
Joe
first
lady. Yeah,
accuser.
yeah.
Yeah, she reminds me of the whole R. Kelly situation, and again the Bill Cosby situation. It's like they're not really telling again the full side of it. They're not saying that she was a willing participant, even with Cassie. And that's, I
Yeah.
guess we'll get into that, right? With the whole Cassie situation,
Mhm,
how the jurors are even at the end, or, the jurors were saying that Cassie wasn't necessarily a victim. They showed all
mhm.
these text messages to say that, these guys are just lovers. These guys are just having lovers' quarrels and things of that nature. It wasn't
Yeah.
like she was being trafficked, or she wasn't like whatever the media is trying to paint, because she was a willing participant. These are just two lovers. So sorry, I think that was like a theme throughout the entire documentary is what I kind of noticed. And what
Mhm.
I've noticed with Cosby and with R. Kelly, that the people who are making all these accusations, 9 times out of 10, they're willing participants, fully willing
Signed
participants.
up
But
for it. Yeah.
yeah, they signed up for it. They're
or
willing
some, and then
participants.
not to take away. Sorry to cut you off there, Osal. Not take away from the actual, if there's actual victims that did not participate, did not when it wasn't willingly. You know what I mean? So we don't want to be insensitive. We want to be empathetic towards the real true victims, but we have to take account. We have to take into account the ones that are using this just for money or to you know extort or to you know what I mean or to paint him in a bad light kind of thing. So we have to look at both sides. So go ahead. Sorry, Osa. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's kind of like the goal. That's for what if there's gonna be any goal of this Diddy, Cosby, R. Kelly trifecta here, it's just nowadays people can just say anything. You know, the truth is just not like it just holds no weight. The actual truth.
Hmm.
You know, people can just wake up one day and just make up a story, you know, and then this person
Yeah.
is gonna have to fight and like
Perfect
deny this for the
example.
rest of his life. You know, whether
Yeah.
it's in entertainment, whether it's in the real world, it's just setting the precedent for our future. And like you're saying, it's pretty dangerous. The
It
type of
is. It
world that
is.
we're setting ourselves up to be. And imagine like the
Right.
next 20 years from now, when Diddy, Diddy's not, maybe he will be here, but when Diddy's not here, when Bill Cosby, R. Kelly, when these guys aren't here, they're gonna use this as a precursor to the way society is now, just like they did with like terrorism. Now we all got to take off our shoes at the airport and things like that. Um, for example, like with 9/11 and all that happened, and all of that, just again, not to be insensitive, but because that happened, now I have to take off my shoes when I go into the airport. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like aviation is one of the most safest ways to travel
Right.
in the world, but now everybody's going to be running around thinking that there's a potential threat because of what happened, an isolated incident that happened. And again, just like with this Diddy thing, you're going to have people out here thinking that, what hip hop's all about is just this, just
This like drugs and
wild.
well,
Yeah,
which is all the music, which is the whole music industry. It's not just hip
all
hop
music's like
because
this.
most
You
of the
got
drugs was in
all
rock
artists
and
are doing this
soul
type of stuff. Those
and
rock
jazz
stars
and
are
stuff.
doing
Like
it. Country stars are
yeah,
doing it.
like
Elvis did it. All these white actors,
oh
they're
yeah,
all doing it too. All of them are in it.
the
All of them
Hollywood
are
is
there at
messed
the
up all in
parties. All of them
overall.
are there, but
Yeah,
Diddy's a scapegoat. So it's kind of like
exactly.
it's just
They're
like a
using Diddy as this.
precursor, just like
Yeah,
re-engineering people's minds and stuff like that. And it's like you really can't take this, you can't go too deep into this. And that's why I find it amazing that they're still making the Tupac Biggie thing relevant to this day. Like
but that's what I'm
that's crazy.
saying. Because you got somebody like Keefe D, who's not credible. He's lied a lot. You know what I mean? To say, oh well, it was Diddy. Yeah, Diddy. We had this meeting here, and you got, and then they had a nerve. We'll get into that. I think the Tupac. I think it's in episode 2. But episode. Let's just finish up episode 1. Episode 1 does go into his Uptown years as well, and how he started off at Uptown, how he became an A&R, how he met up with Andre Harrell, how he became a, to started was one of the ones that helped. Because there's other people that helped up Mary to bring her to who started her up, but
Hmm.
Diddy was one of those ones as well. Because there's other artists that helped Mary J. Blige too around that time, but Diddy was one of the ones that really kind of um, helped her out. Because if you listen to the What's the 411, Diddy's imprint is in that album. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
yeah, What's the 411? Solid album. I remember in 1992 hearing it, and my sister, who's older than me,
Yeah,
that was
yeah, yeah.
but we
Exactly.
don't want to get into it. But we know. Like
Jodeci as well
I'm
too.
just telling
Before I
you
forget,
real. I'm just telling you real tangible memories of that
no, I
album
hear
because
you.
I
I hear you. I
remember
just
that was
before I
there.
forget, I
I
just want to
wasn't.
say the word
Yeah,
Jodeci, right? Because it's gonna slip my mind. Jodeci
Jodeci.
as well too. He
Yeah.
helped out. Who else did he help out? What other
Father
artists?
MC. He helped out Aaron Hall. Well, Aaron Hall. Um, well, that was more like sorry, Teddy Riley and all those stuff. Remember, Aaron Hall they had a group together, and the other Hall as well. But he helped out. Who else did he help out? As I mentioned earlier, he
I'll be
directed one of the
sure.
fantastic.
I'll be
I'll be
sure.
sure, of course. But I don't know, but that's Andre Harrell's
Heavy
artist.
D,
That's Andre
Heavy D.
Harrell, Andre Harrell's artist. But obviously,
Yeah, that's what
Diddy
I'm saying. Like
was
Diddy was
around
around
to
all
help.
those
Yeah,
artists, like you said,
yeah.
with like hanging with
Heavy D, but Heavy D was
Andre
there before
Harrell. Yeah, but his core artists that he took was what? Jodeci, Mary
Jodeci.
J,
Helped out
Biggie.
Jodeci, Biggie, of course.
Yeah,
Faith
like,
Evans, Mace,
but that's
um,
later on. That's Bad Boy. At
the
first, when he
Locks.
was with
Well, we got to talk
Uptown,
about it. That's what he's. We're talking about
yeah,
artists as a
exactly.
whole.
So we're gonna
Yeah,
lead into that. So then, yeah,
yeah,
next came after Uptown with Andre Harrell and them. He went over and he started his own thing with Bad Boy. And again, the
yeah.
documentary gets into all of it. You just got to really and truly watch the
It does.
documentary.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, like of course, there's more to the story. But yeah, he stopped working at Uptown, did his own thing with Bad Boy, and then Clive Davis came along and gave him a big bag, and then all of a sudden, the rest is kind of history from there. Like there's a lot that
King
happened, but
Kim.
the rest is kind of history. But within the
Yeah.
documentary, you had like guys like Eric Sermon. They were
Mhm.
talking a whole bunch of crazy stuff about these stories, and it's like I didn't even know Eric Sermon and Diddy had any type of like
Didn't
history.
know
But
that either until the documentary,
Diddy, I
which is
think it was
wild.
what Diddy
Yeah.
taking guys as girls, like you were saying, like that went into
Well, you know what? See, that's the problem with the salationness of the story because Eric Sermon said that was Misha was his friend. He didn't say it was his girl. You see what I'm talking
yeah,
about? But they make it look like he took the girl away from me. No, come on, you were friends with her. You already done break up with her. You guys were friends, and he just maybe took a liking to her and ended up dating her. You see what I'm saying? But they make it look like Diddy took the girl away from him,
right,
and
right,
Diddy was wanting to go fight him because she was in the car, and then he drove her around to go do it, and then they end up listening to Biggie's demo tape. Eric Summer, what kind of story is that? Like, we all the
yeah.
years, I know who EPMD is. I listen to EPMD. Never heard that story in my life, but I heard a lot about Eric B and the Death Row E situation. But that's like outside of this documentary. So, but never heard this. So I was quite shocked that Eric Zimmerman was in this documentary. Very shocked because I never knew he had any issues with Diddy. Now all of a sudden you have issues with Diddy,
Yeah.
and but that wasn't your girl. That was your friend. You labeled her as a friend. And then you make it look like he stole your girlfriend. What? That's weird. Like that kind of threw me off. You know what I mean? But yeah, but Diddy, he helped out a lot of people when it came to starting out their careers and
And
hearing
again, her
that.
name was Misa Hilton. I'm just
Maisa,
looking it up here.
I call her
Misa
Misha. I call her
Hilton. So that
Maisa.
was
Yeah,
Diddy's
she
girl.
was
She
in the
was
Big
all up in
Papa
the
video. Yeah, I
videos.
remember her from the Big
She was
Papa
in the
video.
Big Papa
Yeah, that's
video.
I know.
And they
Yeah,
did go into how the big, or was it the Juicy video, like to allude to, I guess, piggyback of what you said when you played the demo tape. Then they went right
yeah,
into the Juicy, right? And they had
yeah.
the contrast with Juicy and Tupac's
Mhm.
"I Get Around," which was pretty cool. Like how they kind of like
Yeah, one
split both
I kind of
videos.
knew
I
that
I like
before.
that.
Yeah.
Well, again, I'm just speaking about the
No, no,
journalistic
no. I know that, but
side of
I
it.
like that.
I
I like
like
how
how
they
they
did
did
that.
that.
I like how they did that. Yeah, that
Yeah,
I
I like
like.
how they did
Yeah,
that. They
yeah,
kind of split from Biggie's and they went over to Tupac's "I Get Around," and
yeah,
that was pretty cool to see like the contrast in both of the
yeah.
videos and stuff like that. But it was alluding to, how there was there was a whole war about to start happening, and yeah, but from the
Oh
two
no, we're gonna
sides,
get into
and
that whole East Coast
yeah,
fight because that was reckless what they were
the
saying.
East
But
Coast and West
anyway,
Coast was just kind of crazy because that
yeah,
yeah, that I think that kind of, yeah, Kurt Burrows, though, he was like the main guy in that first, like,
yeah,
this whole series just put a light on this Kurt Burrows guy.
yeah.
He
Which
was
he was
like,
around. I've heard of because he's done interviews with Art of Dialogue, Vlad TV. I think he did one with Camp News. I could be wrong. Campo News or whatever. He may have did stuff with other YouTubers in the past. You know what I mean? But that's where I found out who Kurt Rose is when he was doing all his circus throughout the YouTube. You know what I
right,
mean?
right.
Yeah, but I didn't even know who he was prior to that because he wasn't in the was well social media wasn't there back then. We didn't care. All we wanted to hear is the music. You know what I mean? Back then, that nobody cared about we didn't hear no gossip and nothing because they all kept it internally within the industry, within themselves. You didn't hear it outside, and you may hear them in tabloids and Wendy Williams was that girl that used to taught the business within the rap industry and the music industry in Hollywood. So that only her or Perez Hilton, whatever. But like other than that, you didn't. The general public didn't know this stuff because it was all kept within. They had a code back then. I don't know, like they
Yeah.
never talked about it. You'll see it in a magazine there and there, but you won't get details. You know what I mean? You wouldn't know unless the artists do actual interviews. But that's the thing. Like, but this whole even with this D guy, what's this guy's name? Who grew up with Biggie, not Biggie, sorry, who grew up with Puffy, was telling his story, which was interesting, too, how he grew up with him and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So, but where's Diddy's? Diddy has a sister, right? Where's Diddy's
Okay.
sister? They only talked about Diddy, but Diddy has Diddy has a sister. How come they didn't put the sister in there? You see what I'm
Yeah.
talking about? Not a lot of
Yeah.
people know that. Not a lot because she's not really in the limelight like that. He has a sister, so it only looks like Diddy was like the only child. No, he
Right.
wasn't. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah. So I think Biggie had a sibling as well. He had a sister as well.
Oh,
No, no,
really?
Biggie was the only child. My apologies. Biggie was the only child. No, I'm talking about
Okay.
no, Diddy had that. Like, Tupac had the siblings as well. So, but yeah, but why didn't they talk about how come they only look like she was only raising him? And if you're gonna talk about Diddy, he had a sibling. You know what I mean? So it's like a lot of things that they missed out. They deliberately didn't put in. Also, okay, they did put in Clive Davis, but they talked about a lot of good with Clive Davis, but and
Just
obviously they're
briefly,
not going
yeah.
to talk about the bad stuff about Clive Davis. You know what I'm talking about? They're not
Yeah,
going to talk
like
about
he
that,
like
right?
Clive Davis in my head he's the guy that groomed Diddy into the guy that he is
Yeah,
now.
him and Andre
He
Harrell.
was
Yeah,
he was
yeah,
the groomer. He was the groomer because I mean he had the bag. He's been in the music
yeah,
industry for so long as well too before he even
yeah.
met Diddy. Him, Quincy
Exactly.
Jones, right? Like they're probably the original freak offs, like freak off members. That's just how I kind of perceive it. Again, everything I'm saying is alleged as well too. I don't know. I
Exactly.
wasn't freaking there, but I can make my own argument too, just based off of
Exactly.
what I've seen over the last X amount of years. Just
Hmm.
based off a pattern and stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah.
who's bigger than them? But so going into what's his name here, the next episode, because that's pretty much. I
You want to
think
go
we
to
pretty much
episode two?
nailed
Okay.
everything in the first
But side
episode.
note, side note, I want to give a side note before we go into episode two because we just talked briefly about Clyde Davis. I remember the story where TLC wasn't getting their money. They ended up storming in to an office to kind of like talk to Clyde Davis. You don't remember that story where they
Yeah,
went T-Bars and Left Eye and all? They came with the bats and they bust into the boardroom and was in Clyde Davis's face, and then who was there? Puffy was there. Puffy called up I don't know if it's Dallas Austin or somebody. I don't know if it's TLC. Yeah, I think it was Dallas Austin or somebody. He called him up and
yeah.
said, "Yo, TLC's down here in Clyde Davis's face." You don't remember that story? So did he kind of rat out? And remember, T-Boss was on the Monique show talking about it. So I feel like TLC's the only one that stood up to Clyde Davis and said, "Yo, you're not giving me back." Why don't they talk about that? And Diddy was there in the boardroom. So where exactly what that ties into what you just said. He was groomed by Clive Davis because he was in the boardroom when it was happening. So you see
and
what I'm
and
saying?
on record now they say that because they
Yeah,
say that Clive Davis and Diddy had a working relationship, whereas
yeah,
Clive Davis backed the first, like pretty much Diddy's first
yeah.
deal with um
That boy,
Arista.
MCA Records,
Arista.
Arista,
Arista.
MCA Records. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so Clive Davis had Arista Records, and
Mm-hmm.
Arista Records gave Diddy that big bag to start Bad Boy, where then he signed Biggie, right?
Yeah.
Total, Faith
Total.
Evans,
That's right. Yeah,
and yeah, that was pretty much it. Then he got popping from there. Once those three popped off, Diddy was just the guy from there. That's what
yeah.
started everything.
But that's the thing. People weren't talking negative about him unless it was
People weren't
East Coast
talking
West
negative
Coast
back then, but
related.
again, this is after
Yeah,
the Stampede. This is after all of that. people
Yeah.
still weren't really talking negative about him because it just media wasn't as weaponized back then. I mean, it probably was,
It
but
was, but
not against
he
him.
had more control. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, he wasn't.
Diddy
Yeah,
was had more
so
control. Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, so going forward now, episode
Yeah.
2 was what goes up must come what goes down must come up,
Right.
which is a crazy title.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I think
episode
that's what
2,
Diddy said or
it
something like
just
that.
started to go into more of the Biggie and Tupac situation. It went
Yeah.
real deep into it. Even it was showing, I'm not gonna lie to you, I think I saw that clip before with the Biggie, when Biggie got shot in the 911 call. I think I've heard that, but
Yeah.
that scene in my mind is not as powerful as the Tupac one. The Tupac one, I remember, like, that's been broadcasted a gazillion times, with Tupac walking through the casino after the Tyson fight, kicking
Yeah.
up the guy.
After he got into the fight, after all of them got to the fight, that's when he started walking
Yeah,
through,
that I
to
remember
walk away from
vividly.
security. Yeah.
And then them, what I guess you told me the other day that they went back. Him and Suge Knight went back, Tupac and Suge Knight, to get changed,
They
and then they
did, yeah,
jumped in
to
the
the
car,
hotel.
and that famous
Mhm.
picture was taken, and then they got
Yeah.
shot, or at least Tupac got shot.
Yeah.
And yeah, so they just went into that, and they're trying to say that, well, at least Kurt Burrows is trying to say that um, Diddy put the hit out on Tupac and the Southside Crip. Was Southside Crips they called him? Southside
Well,
Crips? What were their
Diddy
names?
had relationships to the Mansfield Crips and the Southside Crips. Now,
Yeah, Mansfield Crips. Yeah,
LA, yeah, as if you want to indulge a little bit into the Quad Studio situation too, that's what they talk about. But Tupac did say that, and he was angry, and he said it in a they put it in the interview. I don't know if he said it to a reporter. He was in a club, on the club floor, on the club like dance floor, and he was angry. He said, "All these rappers are being extorted by these drug dealers," and blah 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 blah. He ran up his mouth, and then he put it in the newspaper. This is around the time before he got shot, and it's just in between the time I think he was being charged with the sexual assault and rape stuff, right? But that's what then they put it in the magazine. So yes, so a lot of the drug dealers used to extort the rappers. They used to be around the entertainment. Haitian Jack had a relationship with Madonna, so you know that the Bloods and Crips, the gang members, a mafia as well. They used to be around the music business as well. So it's nothing new. So it's ancient old information. So you know what I mean. But people that don't know, that don't research, that don't know that a lot of these underworlds are tied in with the music business as well. They won't know that. But yeah, yeah.
but
So
to tie it into
yeah,
the documentary, Kurt Burrows is
Kurt Rose.
alleging
Yeah.
that Diddy has a connection to Tupac's murder. And Kurt Burrows is saying, I'm just reading the synopsis here. Kurt
Mhm.
Burrows basically is trying to say that Diddy was jealous of the relationship that Tupac and Biggie had. And for one, and for two, Kurt Burrows is trying to say that when Biggie was trying to leave LA to go to London, that's when the situation happened where he got executed pretty much.
Okay.
So Kurt
Yeah, I
Burrows
did
is trying to,
hear. I did. Yeah,
yeah,
sorry. Go ahead. No problem. I did hear
yeah,
that
Kurt
story.
Burrows,
I did hear that story
yeah,
before that he was supposed to go to
yeah, I
London,
remember that, yeah,
but we didn't know. But we didn't know if it was supposed to be after his press run in LA or before. That was kind of
yeah,
like we didn't. I didn't know if it was before or after. But what I did know, what Gene Deal's been talking about for many years, is that they were in LA because all these years we thought that okay, he went to LA for the awards, and he then a few days later he went to the Vi magazine, and then that at the in the Peterson Automotive Museum, and then that's when the whole incident happened. No, they were in LA a month before that. They were in LA working on Puffy's. I don't know if he's working on Puffy's album or his album, right? They were in LA way before that. So, and then that's when they used to get. That's when they were getting all these threats and stuff like that. And when Biggie was in the mall and they were like hurling at him and saying all this stuff when he was in the mall in L.A. But anyways, I digress a bit. But yeah, I didn't know that they for years. That's what I'm saying. This documentary could paint a picture. Whereas if you dig deeper, they were in LA long before that happened. You know what I mean? But anyways, I digress. But yeah, it does go into the whole situation with Tupac. I think that's when it first starts off when Diddy was at his birthday party, which I do remember seeing the pictures, and the videos just resurfaced years ago. Like I've never seen these videos until while YouTube started to become big, and then people just post them on YouTube. So where you see the video of the party and Method Man was performing, Biggie was performing. Um, I'm not sure if Keith Murray was there. I'm not too sure, but Mary J. Blige obviously was there. Tupac was there and his crew. A lot of entertainers, a lot of rappers were there on the stage at the ballroom in New York City. I think it's still there actually. I don't know if it's still there. I believe so. I think it's still there. But yeah, that was that infamous party. And then there's a picture of Tupac and Puffy. So that's what they started off with, and then they get into the whole story with that. So I don't know if you want to continue with that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there was that. But what else?
Mhm.
Yeah, I remember that part. I vividly remember that
Yeah.
part. What I was looking at here is that
Mhm.
what's his name was in there too? Greg Keating, the
Which
LAPD
yeah,
detective.
Greg Kaden, who every time there's a Tupac documentary and a Biggie documentary, Greg Caden's there. This is the problem with this. People are not going to do their homework. They're not going to say that Greg Caden is not fully credible with other his other lawsuits and stuff. I mean, not lawsuits, but detective work and stuff and things that he was a part of where he wasn't credible with his information. Greg Caden has been, they have argued his points over the years. He was originally assigned to do Biggie's case, and all of a sudden he gets entwined. He more talks about Tupac's case than Biggie's case, if you notice, which he was never assigned to that because he's LA. He was LAPD. He was only assigned to Biggie after the Russell Pool, after they took up, because Russell Pool was investigating it for many years when it first happened. And Russell Pool was the original person that was assigned to the case. And then because he started digging deep, if people do their homework, I suggest anybody that's listening, look up Russell Pool and you'll know what I'm talking about. This guy did some deep, deep investigation. Him and Phil Carson, which is part of the FBI at the time, they went into, and then there's another Las Vegas PD that were involved with Tupac's case. I think one of them passed away though. But yeah, but they go deep, deep, and then that there's the corruption that LAPD has something to do with Biggie's death. But I don't want to digress too much into it because we're more focusing on Puffy, but it does tie in because that Craig Caden did a book called Murder Rap, and then he did the movie. It's on YouTube if you want to watch it. I'm not watching because Greg Caden still goes with the whole Orlando Anderson narrative, which that was a narrative that we knew of for years, but he kind of steers away from LAPD being involved in it, which I don't like. You know what I mean? It kind of discredits what Russell Poole was talking about, and that Death Row had something to do with both murders, and it kind of like, you know what I mean? They kind of say, oh well, he wasn't in his right, he wasn't in a good health, and with that goes to a whole. That's what I'm saying. People only look at the surface. That Tupac and Biggie situation goes deep, you know. So I suggest people don't look at the surface of things. Don't fully listen to Greg Caden because he's not really credible when it comes to this story. You have to look at Russell Poole's situation and look at documentaries and other people that talked about it as well, and the FBI agent that talked about it, that case. So look into those as well. Greg Caden does have a good story. He's more, I guess they more lean on him when it comes to, because he did Murder Rap and he did the book, and they more look to him, and that's why he ended up in the documentary.
Right.
Um, you know what I mean? But I suggest people dig deep because they're running with this narrative that Puffy had something to do with it because of what Keefe D was saying. Keefe D, who was in the, I guess one of the living people that was in the car at the time of the murder, right? But this story goes so deep. We don't even have time to go into it. It goes so deep because I question if Keefe D was even there, to be honest. If because he really, when he got arrested, you got to listen to what he was saying. I didn't do this. I only did it to make money and entertainment. You know what I mean? I'm like, what? For years you've been saying that you had something. You put up the plan. You gave the gun to the Orlando Anderson, and then change from Orlando Anderson to the other Andre guy, and then change it to the Andre guy to this guy. They keep on changing the story. Or Orlando Anderson, when he was alive, he went on TV and said that he didn't do it. He's like a scapegoat. I didn't do this, and and but people were saying he was bragging about it in Compton. Who's these people? You know what I mean? That's what I'm talking about. That's why he never got charged, because they had no mold, they had no gun, they couldn't tie him to the scene. That's why they let him free. And I know he died a few years after that on a separate situation, but still, he didn't get convicted. He they let him go because he got a good lawyer. He got a lawyer, and then you know what? Orlando Anderson ended up testifying for Suge Knight when Suge Knight breached his probation, because they said that he said he went out of the country and he kicked the guy when Tim and the Tupac and the rest of them were fighting the guy in Las Vegas, and they caught it on camera, and they arrested him because he breached his parole, and they put Orlando Anderson on the stand to testify for Suge. So you mean to tell me this guy who supposedly shot Tupac Shakur, you're putting him on stand to defend you, Suge Knight? Something's not right with that. Why people don't open up their minds? This is what I'm talking about. Anyways, I digress. Look, anybody that's watches, look it up. It's true facts. It's documented. Go look at it. They paid him money. He went on the stand to testify, not against Suge, but for Suge to keep him out of jail. Who's gonna put somebody that shot your friend, your artist, that almost took your life? You're gonna put him on stand to defend you? Something's not right with that. Anyways, and that happened back in 1997, and nobody didn't. And these YouTubers have fresh eyes and minds. A lot of them are picking into that situation now. I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here with that? You know what I mean? But I digress. This is what I'm talking about. And now they're trying to put it on Puffy, which Puffy has denied this situation for years. Me myself believed it at first. That's why I have to take accountability. I believed at first that maybe he did set up Tupac, because he never liked, maybe he didn't like Tupac. I thought he knew about the whole Quad Studio situation. Which even Tupac thought that Diddy has something to do with it, but people forget he was really upset with Biggie. He was upset with them because he felt that you guys know the ins and outs of what's going on in New York. How come you didn't tell me these guys are gonna come and rob me and shoot me? You know what I mean? Even while their intention wasn't to shoot, because I guess it was a shootout, because he didn't want to apply he didn't want to cooperate with the robbers, right? But obviously it was a setup. But he felt that Biggie and Puff knew about it and didn't tell him. Your guys are supposed to be the king of New York. You guys are supposed to be in New York, this, New York, that. You guys are going to tell me that this situation happened. That they're going to set me up. You guys didn't tell me that. It goes at anybody's. Go look it up. That's what Tupac was saying. That's what he thought. It's documented. It's out there. So I'm not making it up. You know what I mean? And then they put in a little snippet of the Vibe magazine when he did the Vibe magazine. He did an interview with Angie Martinez, who up to this day will not release a full interview. I don't know why she won't do that. She needs to, but she won't. Right? It's bits and pieces on YouTube. Anybody that's watching this or listening to this, you can go and look at it. But this is the core of what they're talking about in episode 2. Is they're making it look like Puffy has something to do with the Quad Studio. They only show him walking out of the studio, but they don't show Biggie walking out. They don't show all these producers and rappers walking out of the studio when Tupac got shot. They don't show that Stretch. They never talked about Stretch, Tupac's friend, who Tupac thought had something to do with the shooting as well. They don't talk about the people that actually did it, which is Haitian Jack or Jimmy Henchman. They don't go into details about that. They only pinned it on Diddy when it came to the Quad Studio and alluding to him having something to do with the shooting of Tupac Shakur back in 1996. They don't go into who the actual key. They don't go into the actual. Even though it's not that type of documentary, but if you're gonna blame Puffy for that, you got to go into detail. You got to go into context, because a lot of people believe that now. I see people on IG, on YouTube. Oh my God, Puffy did it, and oh my God, he's this and that. I can't believe what he did to Biggie. I can't believe what he did to Tupac. Listen, man, I thought he had something to do. I would. It would more make sense. Puffy killing Biggie versus than Tupac. You know what I mean? Because it could have been over a money thing. But knowing Diddy, he's a businessman, so he's looking at them as commodity. He's not gonna sit there and wanna, And based upon the stories of how Diddy was back then, he was free cat. You know what I mean? That's what Napoleon was saying. He says, yo, when he seen Sugar and Tupac, even Gene Deal said the same story. Yo, Diddy ducked and ran away when he saw them. So you didn't mean to tell me the same guy's gonna set up them to get killed? That was afraid when he saw Suge and Tupac when they at the Soul Train Awards. Like people don't like they this talk about people not gonna do their homework and see this stuff didn't happen.
But
Puffy was
like
scared
another
of them
thing
back
is
then.
they said that Jimmy Henchman was running with him and Diddy. They were because what
They were,
apparently
yeah,
I was watching
yeah,
not Cho No Joe, one of those guys. They were saying something
yeah,
about that they were breaking on the whole Quad Studio situation, which they did get
yeah.
into in episode 2. Like you said, you
Well,
only
we're in
saw Diddy
episode two
walking
right
out.
now because they talk
You
about
only
Suge
saw
Knight
Diddy
and
walking out, but yeah, what's his name was saying that there was a beef between Tupac and Jimmy Henchman apparently, and
yes, that two
also
of
that
what
Biggie
he said
Biggie
did.
had a Biggie secretly was ghostwriting for Junior Mafia
That's
and
not a
Biggie
secret. He wrote
and
for them.
Biggie.
That's not a secret. That's
No,
not a
I'm not
secret.
saying. I'm just saying
He
like
was working
behind
on their albums and their stuff.
secretly
That's not a
meaning
secret. Yeah,
that Biggie was
yeah.
doing it behind Puffy's back. When I
That
say
that I
secretly,
heard.
yeah.
I heard that story.
So yeah,
I heard that story.
that's why
Yeah,
essentially this is not in the documentary. The way they painted it in the documentary was that Puffy had something
exactly.
to do with it.
They
But
missed a
again,
lot of
this is kind of
information. I
like
remember that. I remember hearing
proving our
that. Yeah,
point, right? Like
yeah.
we're just I think that's the whole basis of this live. It's like to show that the documentary was great, it was well done, but it was just more so to kind of like paint Diddy in a negative picture. So
Right.
again, the Quad Studio incident, they're saying that well again, one guy came out and said that Shoot No Joke, whatever his name is, but he said that Diddy was there because he was talking to Jimmy Henchman or something like that, or he was trying to figure out what's going on with Biggie and the ghostwriting, not ghostwriting, the um because they had a publishing deal together and Biggie was behind Diddy's back writing for Junior Mafia, so he was trying to figure
Yeah,
that
I
all
heard
out.
that story.
And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
Tupac was there because he
Of
was
the
supposed to
little
do a
Sean.
feature or
Yeah,
something like that. He's supposed to do a feature for somebody, and he was running around with Haitian
little
Jack
Sean. Yeah,
and Lil Sean. Yeah, so
little Sean. His
yeah,
story
they
is so
didn't.
he's so arrogant with his story. But anyway,
But
that's a whole
again,
different story. Yeah,
they
yeah.
didn't mention any of that in the documentary. That
No,
seemingly made a lot of sense. So yeah,
it
that was
does.
episode 2. That's pretty much what episode 2 was detailing. It went into like real good. It went into real good depth, but like a lot of it wasn't really the truth. It was more just like painting a narrative to make Diddy look bad and make kind of like blaming all that stuff that happened
All that stuff
at
on
Quad
him.
Studio on
Yeah,
him. Yeah, but it was still a really good episode. I must say that was probably one of the better episodes. Well, I would say it's probably one of the best episodes because I liked how they went really back in time and they showed Diddy when he did the after Biggie passed away and like they showed Diddy with Sting and all that and like how he the No
yeah,
Way Out, and that's what I'm saying, that was kind of nostalgic to me because I remember all of that. Like I remember
yeah.
watching those award shows, and I remember that first album. I just brought back a lot of memories. So I was kind of like a core memory unlocked episode 2. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of tough right now for us to do episode 3 and episode 4 because we are running kind of long. I think we'll
Yeah.
probably just cut it short. Do you want to have any last thoughts? We'll cut this one short, and then we'll do episode 3 and 4 next time. Any
Yeah, we
final
can do
words?
episode. Um, they did just final thoughts on part two. They did talk about Craig Mack a little bit
Yeah, and his
in the
wife
episode
came
as well, which
on. That was
his
pretty
wife,
pretty
his
interesting
ex-wife
too.
came on. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's quite interesting, to hear
Yeah,
his
he was
story as well.
disgruntled. Yeah. He
Yeah,
looked
that
disgruntled in a couple of interviews. Yeah. Go
yeah,
on,
he's
bro.
just he wasn't getting the money that he was making off of, but he said he only did like one album and then he left Bad Boy. But then I remember when you were talking about this too. It's like he we found out that he was like working with Death Row. He was and he was performing at the 662 the night of Tupac being shot and Suge being shot. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
he was with Death Row, about to
Right.
sign maybe Death Row East or maybe sign with Death Row. We don't know. But he's denied that story. He denied it when he was living. He denied that he was ever even working with death row. And but then now it comes out that he was there. He was there at 662.
Yeah.
Who's told that? Like I think Reggie Wright Jr. One of them told that story years ago. You know what I mean? So yeah, but yeah, my final thoughts is just sorry I went on a rant, but I don't know. I'm really passionate when it comes to this Biggie and Tupac story. I just felt that they just kind of like missed out a lot of key points, especially when it came to that Quad Studio thing, because they didn't mention Haitian Jack or Jimmy Henchman, which possibly had ties to him being shot. You know what I mean? They just mainly pointed it at Diddy. Like Diddy was just there with Andre Harrell. They didn't even talk about. I don't even think they talked about Andre Harrell being in the studio too, because he was there. You know what I mean? Um, and they just felt like, well, Diddy set it up. They made it look like he set it up, which wasn't necessarily the truth. So, but anyways, my thoughts on it. It was well put together. However, as I said, they kind of twisted it to make it look like it was all Diddy's fault. So, and they did talk about, which we didn't get a chance. They did talk about the source awards, which we're kind of strapped for time. So, they did go into the source awards, the infamous line that Suge Knight said, which everybody requotes and regurgitates all the time.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's what I'm saying. That's
yeah,
that's why I feel that it's kind of like, again, just kind of picking and choosing what they wanna, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Because we hear that line all the time, and I guess that's what they're trying to say, spark the beef and this and
yeah,
that. It's like, come on, man. There's much more to the story, and that's why
yeah,
I think
much
they use like
more.
the media whole pretty much for that
Especially the whole
conversion.
Jake, the whole Suge Knight situation with his friend being killed in Atlanta. They didn't go into what the story that JD was saying because he was there. You know what I mean? They didn't go into what Keith Murray was saying because he was there. They only took what Mark Curry says, which I never heard that version before. It was weird, and
Yeah.
and then they kind of blame it on him on this is what happened. This is what sparked the East Coast West Coast war, which was a damn lie. East Coast and West Coast was fighting way before that. And they don't talk
Yeah.
about that a rapper by the name of Tim Dog. I wonder if it's the same Tim Dog that's in the interview right now. But Tim
Right.
Dog that was rapping against NWA. It's on F the West Coast and FNWA. They don't talk about that. That's when it started. Way before this stuff. You know what I'm talking about? East Coast always had an issue with West Coast. You know what I mean? And there's other documentaries that mention that. Why didn't they put it in that? They make it look like East Coast West Coast war started when Suge Knight's friend was killed, and they don't even talk about what the parameters of why he was killed and what happened. And it was an argument over a woman or whatever. They don't who knows. They don't even talk. They didn't even bring up
Yeah, that's what
JD's
they're saying.
version of
Puffy
it. They never said
he
that.
was trying to get down with Suge's girl. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Not Suge's girl. I don't know who it was. But they made it, and then they didn't tell the
That's what they
story
said in
where
the
Suge
interview. That's what they
slapped
said in the
Diddy, and
thing.
like they didn't get into any of that. Like they didn't get into any of these stories, or they didn't
No,
get into.
they said that Puffy tried to give Suge's girl a gift or something like that, or one of Suge's exes or something like that. Suge's baby moms or something,
I don't
like
know,
a
man.
gift or
I don't
something
know.
like that. I have to go
Mm.
back, but yeah, we'll get into it still. So we'll just
Mark
sign
Curry
out.
is
You
telling the
know?
story about the guy, shooting Jake just like that up front. Like, that's
Yeah,
criminal, eh? You don't
yeah,
know who's watching that. Like, what kind of thing is that? That's what I'm talking about. Like, the world is watching, and they're like, wait a minute, you saw that happen, and then the police probably question you, and you didn't say that. You see them dry snitching upon the TV. You just snitch and say what was going on. This that incident happened. Remember, this guy has a family that's still alive in LA. You know what I mean? And they're watching. It's like, oh, so you knew what happened to my so and so family member? This could spark some danger to Diddy, which probably had nothing to do with that. You know what I mean? He probably was shook, was like, oh my gosh, what happened? You know what I mean? So, and then they put Tupac's cousin in the whole situation, which I'm upset with because he wasn't around. He was always in and out of jail. He wasn't always around Tupac when this stuff was going on. And then you're alluding to Diddy doing this to Tupac? Well, you don't have hardcore evidence to say that. You know what I mean? They choose Tupac's cousin, who's in and out of jail, wasn't always around him. You know what I mean? When Tupac was shot at Quad Studio, you weren't even around. He said it. He wasn't around. It was other relatives that were around. So why didn't they get Tupac's other cousin that was around? Why didn't they get him to go to talk about it? No, there's other relatives that were around Tupac when that was there that came to the Quad Studio after when I think Tupac's mom was on camera, was at Quad Studio, and ABC knew she was there. Like that, obviously she's not alive anymore, but Tupac's other relatives that are alive still were there. They didn't talk about that. You see them talking about? They only bring this William guy, Tupac's cousin, who was in jail when this incident happened, wasn't around. He was barely around Tupac. You see what I'm talking about? So it's like, I don't know, man. It's weird. Like it's just weird. But anyways, what kind of ended? Like it's just these documentaries. They kind of like don't tell the full story, and the people that weren't around back then, they weren't old enough, or they weren't even born, will believe this stuff and don't. And some of them will do the research because they're not. Some of them won't take it for face value and say, "Wait a minute, this didn't go like this. Let's do some research." You know what I mean? So, yeah. And do keep in mind, beef sells. So a lot of it, they were doing it to make money too.
Exactly.
You got to
Yeah.
look into
It's
that. But
all
that's a
over
whole
money.
different story. But
Yeah.
anyways, yeah.
All right, so we'll leave it at that for now, and we'll be back probably next couple of days to
Yes.
revisit the last two episodes. All
Okay.
right, we sign out. Peace.
Peace. Bye, everyone.